everyone. If you're listening, this is the JLL Flex for Thought series. It's a sub-series of the JLL Perspectives podcast. I'm your host, Tashi Dorjee, the head of Flex at JLL for Australasia, and really excited to bring you this series because we're going to be talking to a number of experts across a variety of disciplines, not just office. And we're going to unpack what the future of work in Flex looks like. So let's get started. I really wanted to see how we can, open your brain up and leverage all the experience you have around UX, UI, user interface, user interaction, and customer journeys when you apply it to digital products, to see if we can borrow from that and apply it to office design or workplace design or workplace strategy, which actually leans still a lot on technology, like different touch points, apps, and everything like that. And I don't expect you to have all the answers. I think this could be a really cool podcast where we just kind of live workshop it or just talk about it. Sure. But yeah, if you apply your UX, UI design process, what are some of the key things that you do first and foremost that we can maybe take inspiration from?
So the first thing is, what is a problem? Problem's not always a problem. Right. Sometimes, is there an opportunity? So in the startup space, everyone gets hung up on what problem we're solving, which is true in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's like, what opportunity is there? It might not necessarily be a problem. I mean, you look at last few years post-COVID, it was a problem, right? Because we all had to adjust to working from home. And then we started to come back to work, and then the problem shifted to sort of a problem. How do we get people back into spaces? And how do we get people coming back into the real world? But then there's this big space in between the problem of filling space and what's the opportunity to bring people back in a different and a more natural sort of way. So from a digital point of view, the problem that we're solving, or the opportunity is that, well, how do we know it's a problem? How do we know it's an opportunity? Who's experiencing this problem? Who's experiencing, or who could benefit from an opportunity that we might have identified? And then basically working through a whole series of assumptions. What is a potential solution? Like, I'm working with a company at the moment, taking their team through these particular processes because they've never done a UX/UI process. And it's a pretty involved organization. So taking them through those processes is that you already have a ton of knowledge, right? So let's not dismiss that, which again, a lot of people will dismiss that and just start from the beginning, and then identify what opportunities are, because in this case, it's both problem and opportunity. And then today we're actually working through what are the assumptions that we have. So what's the format? Is it a digital thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it more printed materials, which, whatever it might be. And then we start working with the people who are experiencing this thing. Right. And that's the right approach to a design process, is that often things will come from top down. Great. And they have to, that's business requirements. And budget usually comes from the top down, right? And then in order for that to work and to be the most valuable thing that can be done, then we've got to go back out into the real world and actually talk to people. Yeah,
so it's really interesting because even following that process, it comes down to who's experiencing it at the very end of that process, but at the beginning of that product. And even during this podcast series, speaking to a plethora of other guests from other disciplines, it does really come back to that end user. And in this scenario, I guess, to try and simplify it, the end user, when it comes to a commercial real estate or an office design obstacle or opportunity, is the individual essentially walking into that office, right? Walking into that building, and then going to their tenancy within the building, or sitting and resting within the ground floor concierge. So according to your UX UI journey, we need to test, or we need to start with them. Is that right? And then I guess a big thing that's always recurring, aside from getting the design right of what the office is how do we activate the space to, I guess, tickle the fancies of that individual or that community? So what would be the right approach to even test that?
So there's two ways. One is talk to people. Often it's talking to people is good because you will get something from them. The more powerful thing is to be in a space and observe for a while, right? So there was an architect in the 60s, I don't remember his name, in North America, who would finish a building but would never do the landscaping.
Right.
Until 2 years later, or was it a year? It might have been a year later. But what he would do is go back every week to see where people were naturally walking, right? So the paths that they did, that they made without any landscaping, became the paths that they would then finish.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it became a fully usable space based on people's natural patterns and natural behaviors.
Yeah.
So it was a really powerful way to design, just watching what people do and where they stumble. Like, you know, as an example, walking into this building this morning, straight away I knew what to do without having any signage.
Right.
Walked up the steps. There was a reception desk. The receptionist was very lovely. Luckily, I saw where you were because you were speaking with somebody. But I knew just from the flow of that space that there was nothing overly tricky about it. Good morning to the receptionist. I'm here to see Tashi. If you weren't available, I would have known where to sit. So already by that, just the nature of the physical space and how that flows is similar to navigation on a website. So you kind of know where.
So if that's the scenario and we almost want to, maybe this is front running the problem or the obstacle here.
Yeah.
Knowing that the flow and the customer journey is so important, do you deliberately borrow from retail or museums and put certain functional experiences throughout that journey? So part of their experience, even on a welcome, their first time in there, like, oh, there's an area where I can do a private phone call, or there's an area where there's a cafe where I can get a coffee, or so you reveal options, I suppose. Is that where this kind of process kind of leads you towards?
Yeah,
in a
basically observing. I mean, that's one of the key things that you do with whether it's digital or physical, is to see what other people are doing, what's working, what could be improved. You know, so part of the magic is looking at what is working, but then finding spaces that might not be obvious. Not when I say spaces, not physical spaces, but like white space, where there could be an opportunity. It's like, oh, that person's doing something over here in that industry or that field, and this person's doing something over here.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to bring both?
Right.
Those brilliant things.
So trying to blend it to a degree sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to a hotel owner a couple of months ago, and he was kind of telling me this incredible trend, which sounds counterintuitive, where you go into some of the 5-star and the best hotels, and you know, decades ago they deliberately have this grand foyer. So you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But now there's no purpose to that grand foyer aside from the wow factor, which is important, sure. But now they're compartmentalizing that space so that there's purpose. Because if you go into that grand foyer, because now work and lifestyle and digital nomads completely changed the game, how it's structured, where do you go to make your phone call without bothering everyone else in that foyer?
Yeah.
Where do you go to meet someone or wait for someone? So they're almost like taking this grand open space and deliberately, almost from a UX UI perspective, putting all these different usable or functional areas within it that people know what they're going to expect from it.
Absolutely. I would just walk past that hotel. Can I say the name?
Yeah.
The hotel. So the Hilton on George Street, and walked past and noticed for the first time, really paying attention to it, is that their foyer has a cafe where people are actually going in and having meetings.
Yeah.
So whether they're guests or not, I doubt that they're guests.
Yeah.
But it becomes that space where they can get out of the office, can have a private meeting, or maybe they don't have an office at all. But it's just a space where they can buy a coffee for $5. They've got a meeting space for half an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it becomes this really interesting energy that the space then creates.
And they've done a great job there, because hotels generally have always had to fight the stigma that do not come into even the ground floor foyer unless you're a hotel guest. Because there's a lot of restaurants and bars out there within a hotel that, you know, are empty on a Thursday or Friday night, but across the road, the pub is packed. Like the head count's off the charts. And surely there's a branding story and experience story attached to that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't even go into that hotel because they're like, oh, you know, it's probably only for guests or whatever. So they're always fighting that stigma. So they're even going on their own experimentation and journey to figure out how do we invite people in, because they could be 100% occupied, rooms fully booked, but the communal areas are empty. They're ghost towns.
Absolutely. I remember in the restaurant world years ago, I was living in the inner city, and there were 2 pizza restaurants right next to each other, fairly similar menus. And I took a photo of this. I was writing a service design course, and it was like, oh my God, this is a perfect opening. So I took a photo of it. The restaurant on the right had a queue. The restaurant on the left had nobody in it.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday night.
Yeah, right.
So there's no reason for a restaurant to be empty on a Friday night. But I knew both of them, and one of them serviced backpackers takeaway, That was it. That's what they were known for. And the other one was a full experience. From the moment you walked in, you had the owner. She greeted you, really beautiful, welcoming. Everything was kind of mismatching, but it felt like you were in a backstreet of Run. You know what I mean? So it had its own energy and its own vibration. So that's what's happening with the bigger spaces that I'm seeing right now, is that those who can understand that you're creating an end-to-end experience. It's not, I'm coming, sure, I want to come into work.
Yeah.
What's the additional thing that I'm expecting that I can't get from sitting on my computer and having a video meeting?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I literally, and it depends on whoever's listening, what order they listen to this podcast series, but I was speaking to Oscar, one of the co-founders of Young Henry's, and he was even talking about beyond the way that he does experience. He can order stuff from Aesop online, but he always chooses to go into the store because they've done a really good job within that physical brick and mortar presence to greet you, make sure you have a good experience. So it's kind of like, to your point, what are you doing? And from an office angle, the reason why they're trying to borrow from the hotel world is because the hotel world has figured out, or are still trying to figure out, how to provide that concierge or that welcome experience that's there. Granted, it's a lot easier for them versus commercial real estate, because the headcount you're dealing with, because it's a completely different business model, eclipses that of commercial real estate. So you've got more people and more touch points, I guess, to do that. But there's a lot of that is required in an office context. But I think it's really, like, this is why I think, even applying a UX UI perspective is really important, because there's the big buildings that can afford to do crazy stuff because they've got a big building concierge, they've got staff, they've got, but it's the smaller assets or the B grade assets that maybe don't have a concierge because they're not big enough to afford one from an operating cost perspective or whatever, or an outgoings, that really need to rely on, if someone walks in, how can you optimize their experience without potentially there being someone there to greet them or remember their name, from a user flow perspective, from a signage, from a technology. Is there an idea there that comes to your mind? If it's a great.
Yeah. So I was living in London 2000 and, gosh, it was a while ago. 2007, 2008. And what was going on in London at that time was that there were a whole ton of hotels, pub hotels, not sleeping hotels, pubs that were completely empty. So they'd gone bust, right? So a lot of them were owned by liquor companies. And then what happened as a result of having all these empty assets was that they started opening them up and giving the kitchens to these young guns, these young chefs in England who were well-trained, they travelled. What had happened in that period was this whole rise of gastro food. The gastro pubs in London meant that these young kids had an opportunity to showcase their talents and be highly experimental. They weren't paying rent, but the deal was that as long as you bought our liquor and served our liquor, it started to create this real buzz in London. And every borough had some of the most incredible food served by young people, right? And when I think about what's going on with some of these spaces, there's so many people who want to open up a cafe, who are slightly experimental, they want to push boundaries, but the setup to go into a physical cafe, it's prohibitive. It's 250 grand minimum to set up a fairly decent cafe. If these spaces just open up a little kiosk type sort of thing, it's phenomenal. Do you know Kingswood? I don't want to plug. So I was in North Sydney yesterday going into a workshop, and they've got a tiny little hole in the wall. That would be, in my mind, would be an opportunity to say, here are some requirements. If somebody's looking where to go into the building, point them to the signage board. But basically they become a meet and greet building as well. But it's an opportunity to give people a space, a kiosk. That's just one idea.
No, it's a good one, because it also, I feel like, as long as the expectation is managed up front to the tenant or whatever, that it's an experiment or whatever.
Totally.
I feel like creativity is really born from risk-taking and courage. So if you invite that kind of excitement there, you never know, then it could kind of, breathe its own sustainability into like staying there, right? Once it's there. But it comes down to the experience you want to provide, because and I think that's a really good point you make, because when you think about activation within an office environment, there's the generic basic stuff you can always do that generally ticks the boxes on networking events. We'll host drinks, or we'll do yoga, we'll do wellness stuff. Sure. Like almost everyone puts that within their activation calendar. But what are you doing that could differentiate your space or be exciting? And that comes from taking risks. Like, you know, it's not just doing the same stuff that's happening down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you seen some of the stuff that's going on in America? I think mostly in North America, around New York.
No, tell me.
That some of the bigger brands, the retail brands,
right,
they're starting to open up. Their retail fashion brands are starting to create this concept of the fourth space. Right?
No, tell me about the fourth.
So it's where they've got the space. People aren't. There's not a lot of foot traffic going into these high-end retailers, but what they're doing is creating little cafes and little places where people can meet and greet.
Yeah.
Right. So they're actually extending their brand. They're stretching it out just that little bit more. But what it's doing is bringing people into a space. So there might be people who are typically working from home, could be freelancers, whatever it might be. But they're opening up their spaces to create different experiences rather than just coming in and buying stuff.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is that it's creating this whole wave of energy in traditionally what's a typically closed sort of space, unless you want to buy that thing,
right,
the thing might be. It's opening up this whole thing, which is a really brilliant branding exercise for the retailer's perspective, but also creates this incredible experiential thing where communities are starting to form in a space that wasn't typical before.
And it also, like, as an extension from their existing brand, it'll attract a certain, I'd like to think, like-minded community to that particular venue.
Absolutely.
Because it's almost like that brand will bleed into even the cafe area unintentionally. It's like, you know, in my mind, it's like if there's two stores, there's a women's fashion one with a cafe, and there's, like, you know, a video game one on the left-hand side, or electric gadgets one cafe. I'm going to go sit on the gadgets one, you know what I mean? And I'll probably meet. So that's really interesting. It's kind of like a little nod to the toothpaste concept long time ago.
That was, again, brilliant, probably ahead of its time, right?
Yeah.
So,
that for everyone listening, that's the failed startup of mine. It took 6 years of my life.
I want to
turning restaurants into co-working spaces.
I want to challenge this whole idea of failure.
Yeah, me too.
Man, like, it's such a beautiful opportunity to look at it as what you did was you took a punt.
Yeah.
And it worked for a while.
Worked for a while, got me my job at JLL because of the experience there. Met my wife, now I have a kid. Absolutely not. It's a success dressed as a failure.
That's a tangent.
So coming back to the UX UI process, let's say we've now tested, we've spoken. So I love the idea of just sitting and observing.
Yeah.
So that's something that probably doesn't get enough airtime or oxygen because it takes time and patience, which a lot of people don't have. Yeah. So do that. And then let's say we draw some insights from there. What would be the next step, I guess, from a office building context? You know, if you and I were gonna go design and build the next asset for 2020, 30 or 2030,
Yeah. So the next step would be prototyping, concept. So where you naturally go from observation. So firstly, business, understanding, okay, this is what we need to do, whether it's a problem or an opportunity. Here's budget, time, if that's part of the constraint. Here's our observations and our conversations that we've had. And then next thing is just, okay, so by that point, you start to form a fairly good idea around what a concept could be.
Yep.
So prototype, that's the next thing, is like pick a place and what's the cheapest, quickest thing that you could do to test whether or not the idea is.
And this happens pretty quickly. It's like a sprint, right? We're not talking like weeks, months. It's like test it.
And that's the thing. I think that's the good thing about where this whole digital space has gone. This experience, things used to take months and months and months of research. I don't believe that anything should take 3 months of research.
Sure. Because things have changed by then, probably.
Of course. And this concept of doing just enough, just in time, with what you've got right now, is the most powerful thing, because we're never going to get to 100% of anything. So everything just in time gets us to about 85% of what's right.
Right.
So, you know, what's the cheapest thing from a concept prototype point of view? Cheapest, quickest thing that you can use to test and do more observation. And then contextual conversations.
This makes so much sense, because, like, I haven't seen a lobby in an office A/B test a lobby design ever. Maybe I'm wrong, but, like, how cool would it be if, as an experiment for any landlords listening, and you even communicate this to the tenant community and the neighborhood, the precinct, we're going to test our lobby. So expect a bunch of makeshift like pop-ups, designs, meeting rooms, cafe. We're going to speak to a creative young professional who wants to test some stuff. We're going to do all these things and we're going to test it and we're going to observe, and that's going to inform our lobby design. Whereas I feel like a lot of the lobby designs, and I'm talking about lobbies specifically, like, you know, within commercial assets, it all happens behind closed doors, and you get some, you know, hotshot designer that comes in who every right, you know, is a hotshot designer, but may not have the operational experience or the, you know, the cafe experience or the activation experience, but they're just kind of designing what they know and what looks cool. And then everything kind of happens as an afterthought, because there's so many times I get brought in and they're like, this is the lobby, this is the fit out, what can you do with it now? And it's like, well, this is what I do, but it's going to cost you now because it's an afterthought. I reckon it'd be fun, right? Like,
totally.
To A/B test a lobby.
Totally. Because, you know, when you think, again, like applying principles from other industries, so when somebody's selling their home, there's people who've got a ton of furniture and stuff that come in and style your house. Right. So imagine having that for a physical commercial environment, having a pool of things that you could just draw from and play.
There's furniture brands out there that try and do that, but they've never approached it in a way where it's like, let's test how people would interact with the space with purposefulness, right? It's always just like, oh, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you want to sit or stand desk? But I think if anything comes out of this podcast, it'd be super cool if an owner's like, we're going to A/B test our lobby and communicate it. And I'm sure you get some really cool attention and stuff from that as well. And find someone who's willing to do that, and to a nod to the circular economy, rather than buying and trashing stuff. You borrow and you reuse stuff as well. That's cool. Okay, so we're going to move away from the lobby now and go into a space. Whether it's within someone's own office tenancy or within a third space, co-working space. The stuff that you do when it's like, you know, if you want to inspire creativity, you want to build things, whether it's a digital product or it's a new startup, what kind of spaces do you think are the best for that type of quick testing, creativity? And should every office have that, even if they're not trying to create a new product every other day to help, I guess, enable people to have more creative interactions on a day-to-day basis, even if it's problem solving, you know?
Again, it comes down to understanding where people's state of mind is at that particular time, right? So everything from deep work, where I literally just have to concentrate for 2 hours. I don't need Wi-Fi. I don't need my phone. I don't need anything other than my laptop. Just deep work. So that, whatever that might be. Then the next bit would be, okay, I might need to have a meeting. So still kind of work, but a little bit more relaxed, a bit more comfortable, right? Not necessarily comfortable, that's not the right word, but just a bit more relaxed. Then the next stage is, okay, I need to have a meeting with somebody like what we're doing right now, okay, to foster whatever we need to foster. Then the next big thing is how I use the physical space for the ideation, playing, like concept, drawing, just getting all my ideas up. So everything from tiny little closed spaces for deep work up to places where you and I can grab whiteboard markers and just draw all over walls. And it's not a thing that you use every single day, but it's just, again, treat it as an event space. That's how I would look at office spaces, is as an event space. Because, you know, I've leased a place in Surrey Hills, which I'm trying to get rid of because clients used to come in because they had no space. Now they're going to their office once or twice a week. So it's not a problem anymore. But it would have been an opportunity to do it differently. Probably grab spaces like these as and when I need it basis. So everything from deep work. Because I don't mind working from home. I quite like it. Because I get to do laundry, sometimes a bit of slow cooking. But every now and again, I just want to get out of the house.
You have to. Like,
you know, so where do I do deep work? Other than going and sitting in a cafe, which is not conducive to deep work. And then every now and again, I do need an entire wall of whiteboard to draw. So, you know, if you consider everything as an event rather than like office rooms, what's the event? So treat everything as an event, right?
I love that, because in a perfect world, it would be really cool to just work within a multi-purpose event space that has everything that you need, but gives you the flexibility to have accidental creative thought that you can just vomit out, and do. Whereas I feel like there's a lot of friction to allow that to happen in current work environments. Like I've always thought, for me, because I know a lot of people are sick of the content I put out by this time, I would love, like, whether it's a home office or office in the city, for there just to be like a video podcast studio like this just sitting there. So that, or whether it's me just speaking direct or having a guest, so I can just be like, rather than makeshift, like this is all makeshift. Like we've had to rent the lights, we've had to get the 3 different cameras, we've had to like book this out, move a bunch of furniture that I have to move back because I like the wall. But it's about taking that friction away, right? I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like whatever it is, for me, it's a media room. For other people, it might be like, whiteboarding or whatever. If you take away the friction, I think the ideas and the creativity flows. And right now there's just too many points of friction.
So imagine the media room, right? So it's already set up. You've got your lights, you've got your camera tripod, and you're either going to you have to bring your own equipment. So you're either going to have a proper SLR or DSLR or a smartphone. So all you have to do is have the thing set up and say, okay, if you're using your smartphone, do that. If you're using your DSLR, you do that. That's it.
It's
so
make
easy
it
for them.
Point and shoot.
And then it becomes because it's an event, right? I don't need a podcasting room every minute of the day, but I might need it once a week or once a month. Similar to deep work, I might not need it all the time, but I've got a massive project that I've just got to nail, and I've got 2 weeks. Same with the whiteboard, anything from an hour to a month, who knows, whatever that is. So and you're right, remove the friction and just make it so easy to come in and basically plug and play.
Have you messed around with any digital products when it comes to workplace environments, like how people interact with even entering a building or end of trips or within an office space?
No, not recently. Not recently. It's all pretty much the same.
Okay.
Right? I've seen
so recently, what's the trend, or what direction is it going into? Almost like, with this hybrid work kind of style of people interacting with digital product offerings or even their phone, are there any behavioral changes that have influenced design?
Definitely. I mean, the smartphone has killed a whole lot of interactions that we're having. I mean, if you just walk past a bus stop or a tram stop or sit on a public transport, the smartphone has done a whole lot. So what are the stats recently? They've recently come out. The average amount of time a person is spending on a phone is 7.5 hours a day.
Well.
So that's phenomenal, right? So going into the office, even if they're going to work, the phone is with them. So they're consuming or interacting, they're doing a whole lot of stuff on a tiny device. That's not a surprise to anybody, but what's the surprise is how much time we're actually spending on it. The context switching, for the most part, most people don't even notice it. They don't care. But there's people who are resisting it as well now. Okay, but where do we go to have a place that doesn't allow? The technology is great, don't get me wrong, we're here. But my prediction, I don't know if it's a trend yet, is that people are going to actually actively look for spaces where they can disconnect. From their devices, full stop.
Well, we're seeing some, we're designing a few library no-tech zones within some of our spaces, but
amazing.
But not giving it the real estate that it deserves, I suppose. So you think it's going to...
I reckon it'll be great. It's going to get greater and greater. Because there's already a study, it was the boiler room, the music industry study, that is showing that 16 to 24-year-olds are actually starting to reject anything to do with technology. So it's a growing trend, and now that we've got AI coming in, hitting us from every other angle, we're just going to get flooded with digital content. So what's going to happen, and it's starting to show the signs of being true, is that people are going to go, okay, too much. I need to become a bit of a human again, which means that they're going to actively look for spaces where we can actually sit together and look at each other and talk, So that's going to be the big...
I was meant to talk to, Chris Grant from Unyoked. Yeah. So he would be great to talk about this stuff because his whole model with his twin brother Cam, who I went to high school with, who were in the same we all went to high school together. It focuses around disconnecting. I think he would be great to talk because his business is thriving and doing really well because people want to literally get away. And for anyone listening, if you don't know about Unyoked, check it out. But it's like literally where you book these really simply designed cabins in beautiful areas that are disconnected from technology, and you've got a view, you've got in the forest and stuff like that. Yeah, I should definitely check it out with my wife. And
it's so good. Like any level of disconnecting is really good. Maybe.
So you reckon that's possible in the office? Like, I mean, you can kind of design, and then it's on the.
It's going to be kind of like on a volunteer basis. You've got to kind of self-select that as a thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity as well, because if the environment's created where there's going to be no Wi-Fi in, basically you can't connect.
Yeah, I always feel like, do you deliberately design a dead zone? So it's not like you go into the library space with the intention to disconnect, but you're still on your phone just quietly. So it's almost like, the library zones that have been designed are more quiet zones.
Yeah.
I've yet to see one completely branded as a dead zone, like no tech, disconnect. It's always like leave your phone at the front or something.
It is kind of like that. So when you go into some sort of higher security, when you're going through the airport, if you're on a plane, you can't use your phone. And what do people do? Unfortunately, they end up watching TV and playing their games anyway. But I tend to write.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy it. Yeah. Because actually a lot of the stuff that I've written, the fiction stuff, has come.
Oh, that's so cool.
Sitting on a plane.
Yeah.
Well, it's forced. It's a self-selection thing. Yeah. Again, it's just I choose to do it.
What's her name again? The author of Harry Potter.
Oh, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, she wrote it on a train. She was bored and she wrote Harry Potter while she was on a long ass train.
So good.
Charbel, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I think I really want some A/B testing to happen in lobbies. I actually think it's serendipitous that we uncovered it on this pod, because it just plays to so many values and stories that are happening around circular furniture. What do people want? There's an element of courage that's required in the market right now to test activation and ideas. Yeah. Right now, the only way that that's being facilitated to a degree is designing a multi-purpose event space somewhere, which can be changed, but that's still, there's friction to get to that room and to set it up. Whereas if you are brave enough to do it with a whole lobby and to make that an activation in itself, like an experience in itself, I think it's important. Because like even this room, I've made an effort to try and make this an experience for the guests. Oh, you come into a cool room, there's all these cameras and lights in a very non-jarring way, and you're like, oh, okay, we're going to have a discussion, but there's some effort that's gone into the production. I feel special, I think there needs to be a feeling attached with certain activations within buildings.
Absolutely. And you're right on the mark when you say experiment, because that's the thing. I mean, innovation isn't a project. That's the whole thing. Innovation is a whole series of experiments, whether they work or not.
Yeah.
And then eventually you trigger something, because there's so much attention grabbing right now.
Yeah.
That people, they're attracted by stimulation.
Yeah.
Right. And everything is based on stimulation. The flip is to destimulate.
Yeah. I like it.
And that's where the experiments, I feel there could be something really big.
I think so too.
In a destimulation.
We should pick this up, this chat up.
So
for sure.
Anytime. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll speak to you again soon.